We've been gearing up for Aligned 17, which is a virtual conference dedicated to sales and marketing alignment. It's happening May 22nd through the 26th, and we wanted to do something special for B2B Growth listeners. Leading up to the event, we'll be giving you early access to some of the Aligned 17 sessions. Today's episode is exactly that. So if you like today's interview, head over to aligned17.com and sign up to access every session of the event. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers, including Gary Vaynerchuk, Jill Conrath, Tony Hughes, Tucker Max, and Trish Bertuzzi, along with dozens of other B2B sales and marketing experts. So go to aligned17.com and sign up today. You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to Aligned 17. We are here today with Tucker Max. Tucker, how you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
So, Tucker, you're the co-founder and chairman of Book in a Box, which is an incredible service that really helps executives, entrepreneurs get ideas out of their head and get a book written. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's basically, we kind of invented a new way to do a book. It used to be either you had to sit at a computer for a year or more and type it all out, and then hope that like you had something to say and you knew how to structure a book and write a book and whatever, or learn it, God forbid. Or you just had to hire a ghostwriter, and then you got someone who you didn't know if they were any good or not, and you had to pay them a bunch of money, and then they kind of wrote their version of your book. Right?
Yeah.
And so what we did is kind of came up with a different way. And it's a little bit of a kind of a combination of both. So instead of what we do is we create a structured interview process where you spend about 40 hours on the phone with us over the course of about 6 months, and we get the book out of you, your ideas in your words and your voice. So we don't add any content, we don't add any ideas, but we are experts at structuring it. Pulling all your sort of thoughts out of you and then putting them in a book in a way that totally reflects exactly what you're trying to say and then publishing it.
I love it. And you're actually a 3-time New York Times bestselling author. You going kind of the traditional publishing route. And I've heard you talk a lot about why, self-publishing is actually the route that a lot of authors should be, considering more. Can you talk to us about kind of your success as obviously New York Times bestselling author and then why you're such an advocate for self-publishing?
Right. I wrote 3 #1 New York Times bestsellers. I've sold about 3 million copies total, all my books. And so, look, the reality is traditional publishers used to be necessary because the overhead, the capital costs of printing and distributing books and marketing books was really high, call it 2005. And 2005 on, the world has fundamentally changed, and the transaction cost of information is now super low. And so you can publish and distribute and promote your book very, very cheaply. So why would you let someone else own it and control it when you don't need to?
I love it. Well, Tucker, I want to spend the rest of this interview. I was listening to an interview that you did a while back. And for this audience, we're talking to sales and marketing professionals in the B2B space. And I've heard you talk a lot about messaging, and you've got some interesting takes on it. My first question for you, I guess, is why do you think that sales and marketing organizations are missing the mark when it comes to their messaging more often than not?
Yeah, so it really all boils down to one key factor. Most sales and marketing is talking about themselves and not about the client or the customer. And the fact is, no one gives a shit about you. What they care about is what is themselves.
Okay.
So your messaging needs to be, how can what you're doing help them, not from your perspective, but from their perspective.
Got it. There seems to be an abundance of tools out there that are allowing you to automate, certain things and allowing you to send emails at scale. And I think the reason that you're seeing such crappy messaging a lot of times has to do with, I don't know if it's laziness or people just thinking that they're being more effective by sending out, kind of mass blast messaging. Can you share any stories of messaging that has resonated with you because it was hyper-personalized, hyper-custom to you?
Well, first off, look, I can't stand most direct marketers. I think they just As people, they're usually scumbags, and not all of them by any stretch, but a lot of them. And basically, they're a bunch of clowns who are, it's just boiler room nonsense. They're just trying to like make money without producing anything, you know? I mean, you look at what most direct marketers do. They're selling, what they're ultimately selling is bullshit. Like, it's just bullshit. Like, you know, how many people out there are selling, like, they're coaches who have never done anything except coach? Like, get the hell out of here. Like, could you imagine if, like, an NBA coach hadn't played basketball?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a good NBA player, but you have had to play basketball for a long time and then coach for a long time before you're the head coach, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's unthinkable that, you know, I've never thrown the discus, right? But, like, so it's fine because no one hires me to coach them at the discus. But so there's two different things going on. So there are some people who are just, even if they're nice people, maybe frauds is too strong of a word, but they're selling a bunch of bullshit. And so they don't know how to actually offer value, and they don't know how to create value because all they know how to do is sell. Right? They just know, oh, if I say this and then put a timer on, I create scarcity, and then I use this technique. And because all they did was buy a bunch of courses from a bunch of other clowns who bought them from other clowns, and eventually somewhere, someone smart figured this out, and they put the first course together, and it's like, you know, it's just like this infinite, you know, regress of like Russian nested dolls of courses. Like, there's that, right? Now, there's a whole separate thing I'm talking about, though, and I'll use a really good example. My company, in 2.5 years, we've done almost 500 books with some really, really big names. But when we start, we have a really valuable service. Think about it from this perspective. How many people do you know that have great books in their head that want to write a book, that a book would help them, but they just don't have the time or the ability or the desire to sit down and spend a year writing it, right? A lot, right?
A lot, yep.
And then even if you think ghostwriting is okay, because some people don't feel like they want the book to be them, but even if you're cool with hiring a ghostwriter, a good ghostwriter is at least $50,000, right? Yeah. We charge $25,000, so it's half the price of the alternative, and the quality is just as good. So assuming we're talking about nonfiction, you know, normal sort of business self-improvement books, quality is either just as good or 80 to 90% as good, depending on what ghostwriter you hire. Sometimes it's better, quite honestly. And so our service solves a major problem for a lot of people. Like, you don't do 500 books in 2.5 years by accident, right? Yeah. So how should we market? And do you notice how everything I just talked about, I talked about the author's problem. They have a book in them. They can't get it out for some reason. We're the solution, right? That's how our marketing is now. If you go to bookinabox.com, look at the top video. It's like about authors and what books do to them and for them and why books are so amazing and all those sorts of things, right? It's about how our process helped them solve their problems. When we first started, and I've known this. It's not like I just learned this 2 years ago. I've known this for years about sales and marketing. And I used to always critique other people's stuff. And it's funny that when we put up the first website for Book in a Box, I made the same mistake that, like I was saying earlier, I talked about my product from my perspective, not my customer's perspective.
So to dive deeper on that, like, so you just listed like, hey, this is everything we do to make the process easier. Like, it was just a list of.
That's exactly what I was going to tell you, is that, like, I spent all this time talking about our process. Like, I haven't really explained our process hardly at all to you, right?
Yeah.
But like, I could seriously spend this whole hour at least going into like all the deep details of our process and how cool they are, and how intricate they are, and how sophisticated they are, how clever they are, right? Do you know how many people cared?
You.
Yeah, right, yeah. Exactly. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
Like, because, listen, if you're a financial advisor or whatever it is you do, you care about your business, but you don't care about my business. You just care about my ability to get you a book. Yeah. And you don't even care about the book, to be honest. You care about what the book gets you.
Yeah.
You know, you want the prestige and the status and the authority and the speaking gigs and the clients, and you want to be able to hand it to people. That's what you want from the book, yeah. Right? Exactly. And so that's what I had to do. It's so easy to fall into that trap, and I fell into it myself, man.
So what was it for you, Tucker, whenever you made all those same mistakes that you rail on salespeople and marketers for? What was kind of your wake up call to go, oh man, like I just did the exact thing that I hate. Like what woke you up to that? And then what did you do to fix it?
It was like somebody's random comment, like, oh, like your website has a lot of information, which is like the polite way of being like, what the dude, this is so boring. And I was like, what do you mean? And like, well, look at all this. And I'm like, well, don't you care about like how clever we put this, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, I guess, man. But like, kind of what I want, he's like, well, what I really want to know is like, should I even write a book? How do I monetize it? I'm not really sure, like the questions that people would come to us in sales. Like the one thing we did do is our sales process was always very sort of information, and it was customer centered in that like we have too many people who want to write books and not enough people to do them.
Okay.
So our process has always been about qualification and information and teaching, coaching. Like, do you even want to do this? Should you do this? Why would you do it now? Is it right for you? Is it going to get you what you want? Like, that's our sales process, is like making sure these people should be writing books, right? And so the questions we would get from them, what we did is like that one person made me realize, oh my God, every single person asks some combination of like the same 10 questions. So that our marketing needs to be about answering both implicitly and explicitly those 10 questions that every single potential customer has.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. And then is it a constant iteration? Like as you guys have grown your sales team, is that baked into your process now to say like to where there's collaboration between the questions that your sales team is hearing and kind of the marketing collateral that you guys are putting out?
Yeah. So our sales team has usually, almost always, and currently is very good at being very collaborative and sort of helpful in the sales process and not pushy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's taken us quite a while to get our marketing materials lined up. Like it started with our site, and then like I said, we kind of have too many clients right now, so we actually don't do a whole lot of marketing, but when we do sort of targeted content marketing.
Okay.
And again, if you look at the early stuff on my site, it's like the number one Google result for multiple sort of blog posts. Blog posts on our site are the number one Google result for their keywords, like how to title a book, how to write an author bio. There's 3 or 4 others where we literally have the number one or number 2 Google result for this, right?
Yeah.
And those things drive no customers because no one who is a customer of ours is trying to do it themselves, right? And all those pieces are like, let me show you how clever we are and how smart we are, right? What they do is there's 10% of clients who want to like really dive into your site and see how smart you are. And so those pieces close all of those people, right?
Okay.
So we've got that locked up. But what our content marketing now is, we tell stories about our clients, right?
Okay.
So like how this woman used a book to do 7 figures of consulting business in her sort of firm.
Got it.
Right?
So case studies essentially.
We don't position them as case studies the way you would think of. We write news articles. So like we do it more as like, like Entrepreneur and Inc. and all those places are just full of like really clever sort of, look how smart this person is. Look at this cool thing they did.
Yeah.
So we write those stories, and then that person in some way, shape, or form used a book and used us as a book was in some way, shape, or form the keystone to what they did, and we were the ones who did the book. So great content marketing for us will mention us maybe once, never more than twice.
Got it.
And it's totally on the cool tactic or technique that the author, this person used, and somehow that relates back to a book. And then people read that and they're super excited because the technique is something they can use. So like a financial advisor, oh wow, like how a financial advisor got 10 clients at one conference. And then it walks through their exact steps, and a big part of that is a book. And he's like, hey, I used Book in a Box, they were amazing, it was no time at all. And then we'll get 3 clients from that,
And are you guys putting paid ad spend behind that to get it in front of those financial advisors, or is it just organically happening?
We don't need to do that. I'm not saying paid ads are bad by any stretch. It's like you can either be really fucking smart and work hard, or you can just pay for it. We're still at the be really smart and work hard. And no, I don't even mean to be like a smart ass about it. It's like Because everyone, if you get big, reaches a scale where you have to use paid.
Yeah.
Like there's just nowhere else to go. We're not at that stage. We're still relatively small.
Got it. Okay. So I heard you talk before in an interview that you did where, I think at the time you did the interview, you were in the midst of, training another salesperson on your team, and you were having them hear, your process and hear the conversations that you were having. And you alluded to this before, but you basically said, I close 50% of the people that I talk to on the phone because I'm genuinely listening to what they're having to say. And that's interesting to me. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. You want them to be talking more than you, the salesperson, want to be talking. But are there specific questions that to ask that will draw out the type of answers that that me listening to these answers are going to be really strategic in how I kind of position the rest of this conversation? What do those look like? Well,
so first off, let me start with my mindset. Right? Like I get on a sales call. So I don't really do sales anymore. I used to do it a lot. Right. And I was good at it. And I'm not even a good salesperson. Like I'm really not. Like if you had me selling widgets or whatever, like, some people can just literally sell anything.
Yeah.
They're amazing. I'm not one of those guys.
Got it.
So I did well in books because of two reasons. One, I know this space. Actually, three. I know the space cold. Like I know everything.
Yeah.
So what that does, it confers a lot of authority, and people feel safe talking to me. I also have a lot of credibility in this space because they know, even if they don't know who I am, they know I've written a lot of bestsellers and like I know books. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I do that anyone can do is I genuinely approach it from a helping perspective. Like I don't get on the call expecting to sell or not sell at all. Right?
Interesting.
In fact, we're, as a company, we cannot have certain people as clients. Like if you don't know what you want to say, even if you're like, you've got 80% of a book in your head, but the other 20% you need us to kind of fill in the gaps for you and do some research and do some thinking for you, you can't be a client. Like it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So a big part of the way I approach sales is not just qualifying like, oh, do they have enough money? It's can we even work with them, right?
Okay.
And so, and here's the thing. That person who has 80% of a book in them, there's another way for them to get a book. It's just not with us. And I know the way for them to get a book, and I am going to tell them that way and push them there. So I'm going to be helpful. So I get on every sales call thinking, I want to be genuinely helpful with this person. They have a problem. I can solve it for them, or I almost certainly have the information in my head to help them solve it, and I'm going to give them that information. And sometimes it'll lead to a sale, and sometimes it won't, right? But I'm not even going to approach that with that in my mind. So that's the mindset.
I've heard you talk before too, Tucker, how by doing that, by having that mindset, going into a call saying, my sole focus is to be helpful, that you've actually turned people away from your service, said, go do something else. They've gone and done that. They've received the desired result that they wanted to get. And because of that, they're now like a huge advocate for your brand. So you've actually gotten referrals from people that haven't even worked with you guys.
Dude, sales calls that don't close are lead gens for us.
That's incredible.
Like, I'm going to say that again to really emphasize so you really understand what I'm saying. Sales calls that do not close are net lead gens for us. Like I couldn't tell you the exact number, but the viral coefficient of sales calls that do not close is positive.
No, it's incredible to think about. And I know that a lot of the folks listening to this, they're probably in the SaaS space. I know a lot of them are in the SaaS space. And because of that, I think, they have their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry, but I don't know if there's a hesitation around, not even necessarily suggesting the competitor, I guess. Would you say that when you're pointing them to another direction, is it, oftentimes a competitor of yours, or is it just something that's like a complementary service to what you do?
We don't really have competitors, to be honest. What we have is our alternatives, right? And so here's the thing. If you're worried about pushing people to it, there are one or two companies that they might call themselves competitors to us. They're not. Mostly because they do dog stuff and they just don't really even compare.
Yeah.
But dude, I've actually pushed people to them. People who are like, well, I don't know, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, listen, you want to talk to other people? and I'll tell you, these are two, I don't think they're competitors, but they're definitely alternatives. Go talk to them. Go look at their books. Like literally, go look on their site, look at the books they've done, go to Amazon, do the click inside thing, go read the quality of the books they've done. Then do the same thing with us. And if you don't think we are clearly better, then you definitely should not work with us. Like if you cannot tell that, then don't pay more for us. Don't come work with us. No problem. It gets the people away who aren't even right fits for us,
Another thing that I've heard you talk about in the past, Tucker, is the importance of truly believing what it is that you're selling or you're marketing. Can you speak to that a bit and talk about why, like, you should not be selling something that you do not wholeheartedly believe in?
Well, because then you're just lying, man. You're just a liar, And if you want to be a liar, okay, cool. You can be a liar. Like, I'm not like angry at you or anything, but I know what we do, and I know, and there are some people who come to us who we could help them, but I honestly don't think we're the best solution. And so I'll point them to other places because at the end of the day, man, I've got to wake up and look at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And if I'm a liar, it's like, what am I doing? Like, why would you do that? Like, what is the point of it if you're just lying? And so, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean convince yourself that what you're selling is great. It means go sell things that are great. Go do something, go find something you think is worthwhile. That's how we recruit, man. That's why we have thousands of people who apply for jobs with us, is because a lot of people believe in us and our mission and love what we're doing, and they want to do something that matters, and they see us doing something that matters that lines up with what they believe in. And they can come to us and they can bring their whole self to work and they can feel honest every single day. Like, I put in a hard day's work and I helped people and I earned this money and it was honest and real. And a lot of people can't do that. And if you can't, the solution is find a job you can, not lie to yourself.
So that was actually my next question, Tucker, is particularly as it relates to, you said you're not doing a lot of the selling anymore. You've transitioned out of that being, one of the core, your core role in the business. So that wasn't necessarily something that you had to train in the sales team that you kind of brought up under you because they came to the table already passionate about what you guys were doing. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, of course. So we post on our website, our culture doc, right? So this is it's not like make it a big thing. It's a Google doc, people can look at it, and it changes sometimes. Like, this is what we, as our tribe, we call ourselves a tribe. There's 22 full time in our company, and this is what we believe. Like, we got some people who voted for Trump, some people voted for Hillary, some people who voted for Al Qaeda. I don't know. We're all over the map in so many ways: race, beliefs, religion, everything. What we all believe, though, is what's in that doc. We have 3 values that are core values, and then 12 principles that we've decided are expressions of those values, right? And that kind of guide our decision making. And everyone who wants to work with us reads that. And if you don't agree with that, or you don't like it, or it's not part of you, don't apply. And our entire hiring process is about hiring culture first. So first we find people who have this set of beliefs, then we go see if they have skills, right? Do they have the skills to do the job? Like someone who believes all this, but they can't, they couldn't sell, food to a starving man, they're not going to be in sales. They might have another role in the company, or they just might not have a role in the company.
And so when seemingly your thesis to selling, Tucker, is education. So are there ways that you can assess out, someone that we're about to bring on our sales team, do they have kind of this knack toward education over kind of being pushy? Are there ways for you to assess that?
Yeah, there are a lot of ways. So a lot of it is just direct at here, it's almost like a reverse sort of podcast. Like in interviews, I'll ask people really hard, open-ended questions, right? Cause I want to see who they are as a person.
Yeah.
And so the way you figure out if they believe that is you ask, well, first off, they've got to have sales experience, right?
Okay.
What did you sell? How did you sell it? Pitch me on that. Tell me something a boss has done that's unethical. How did you respond? What did you do? Tell me a time, you sold something to someone and you knew you shouldn't have, or you knew they didn't need it. What did you do? Like, there's a million things like that. And people will tell you who they are if you give them the chance and you shut up and listen.
And I think that plays through both in the interviewing as you're growing your team, and it also plays through in, when you're on these sales calls and you're shutting up and listening to what the buyer actually wants, what's the desired outcome that they're trying to get. And by hearing and really listening to what they're saying, you're going to be much more effective at converting on what it is you're trying to sell, or pushing them to a solution that's going to be better. Tucker, this has been incredibly helpful. If there's somebody listening to this, they want to learn more about Book in a Box, what's the best way for them to stay up to date with everything that you guys have going on?
bookinabox.com.
Awesome, Tucker. Well, thank you so much for your time today, man. This has been, again, super, super helpful, so I really appreciate it.
Of course.
If you're a B2B marketer, we want to feature you on sites like the Huffington Post, Social Media Examiner, and Chief Marketer. Every week, we send out a question related to B2B marketing. We use the responses to those questions to fuel the content we write for really popular websites. So head over to sweetfishmedia.com/questions and sign up today.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.